Today we're going to add some shading and implied texture to our llama with charcoal. Now before we do any charcoal, we're going to need to make sure that our Sharpie outline is complete. Now I didn't color anything in with the Sharpie except for the eyes and maybe the mouth. Everything else is just a Sharpie line. When your Sharpie's all done, we're ready to get out some charcoal. Now, if you've never worked with charcoal before, you are going to learn that it is really, really messy. That's why we have these damp towels at our table that we can use to wipe off our fingers so that we don't get too many extra smudges all over our artwork. Now, we're going to be looking at some pictures of some llamas today so that we can figure out where we need to add shadows to the llama and where we need to add some little lines that show the hairy texture. So I'm going to start with some dark black charcoal, and I'm just going to sort of use the charcoal on its side and rub that charcoal under the chin. This is the first place that I'm going to add shadow. If you want, you can also draw with the point of the charcoal. That's going to make kind of a thinner line. It will also probably turn out a little darker if you want a really dark shadow. So you can use it both ways, on the side and on the point. As you can see, it does make your fingers a little bit messy. Now the trick about charcoal is you have to use your blending finger. I'm not using a blending hand. That would be way too messy. So I'm just choosing one finger that I'm going to use to blend this shadow in. And you can probably tell that blending makes a big difference. It goes from looking like a scribble to more like a shadow. If I want my shadow darker, I can just add a little more. Maybe I want to add some texture lines this time. I'm kind of doing some zigzags and then blending them out a little bit so they look a little more shadowy. Maybe I could do some straight lines with the charcoal. Blend those out just a bit. Another place where my llama has some shadows is around the mouth and the nose. So right under the mouth right here, I'm using the point of my charcoal to add just a little shadow, but then the trick is using my finger to blend it. Same thing around the nose. Now the last place I see a really big shadow is around the eyes. So very carefully, I'm going to add a little bit of a shadow here. To darken the eye area. And then blend it together. I'm going to continue adding my shadows until I'm happy with my picture. When my shadows are done, I'm going to take my towel and wipe off my finger because now it's time to do some highlights. And I don't want the black to interfere with the white charcoal that I'm getting ready to use. Now the white charcoal is going to be used to highlight anything that you want to stand out and look lighter. I'm noticing that some of the lighter areas on the llama are maybe the bridge of the nose, the highlights in the eyes, and maybe a few of the hairs that are kind of catching the light. So once again, you can use this type of charcoal on its side. You can also use it on the point if you have a smaller area. Or if you want to draw some smaller details like hairs, I like to add some white lines on the eyelashes to make them stand out. I also like to add white lines kind of a little on top of my dark shadows to bring out some of that texture. You can also use your blending finger to blend in some of these areas. So now I'm just going to use that white to continue making texture. When you're done adding all the shadows and highlights to your llama, wipe off your hands really well with your towel so that you don't get any extra smudges around the side. If you have a lot of dust from the charcoal on your paper, it probably means that you were rubbing too hard with your charcoal chalk. So make sure that you're kind of keeping track of how much dust you're getting. If you're getting too much, that means that you need to not press as hard with your charcoal.